7. Most powerful duality vibrations. Only 1% of dark chosen ones can handle. What if I told you that the most powerful forces in this universe don't exist in absolutes but in opposites? That the most sacred vibrations aren't the purest forms of light, but the echo between light and shadow, the trembling edge where love meets rage, where stillness bleeds into chaos. And what if I told you that only a rare few, only 1% of the so-called dark chosen ones can withstand these paradoxes long enough to integrate them into mastery? This is not for the faint of heart. This is not about good versus evil. This is about duality and the 7 vibrations that sit on the razor's edge of existence. They are not meant to be tamed. They are meant to be embodied, if you dare. We begin with the first vibration, love and destruction. Most people think love is soft, gentle, healing, and it can be. But true love, the cosmic, raw, unfiltered version, is also annihilating. It destroys everything false. It breaks down illusions. It dismantles ego. It shatters denial. The reason most cannot handle real love is because it doesn't hold your hand. It rips you open. It shows you everything you are and everything you are not, all at once. Only those who can sit in the fire of that love without flinching can wield it. That's why it's the first vibration only a rare few can survive. Because to touch the highest love, you must die 1,000 ego deaths within yourself. Ask yourself, am I ready to love so deeply that I no longer recognize the me who began the journey?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
The second vibration is power and surrender. It sounds contradictory, doesn't it? That the path to ultimate power requires absolute surrender. But this is the secret every mystic, every dark initiate, every ascended master discovers sooner or later. You cannot control the universe. You become the universe by letting go of control. Real power doesn't come from domination, it comes from merging. When you let go of the need to force, you tap into the current that moves everything. You're no longer the wave, you're the ocean. But here's the paradox. Surrender feels like death at first. You lose your ambitions, your attachments, your sense of control. And yet, in that loss, you gain the whole cosmos. That's why most fall away. They want power without surrender. But the two are one. Can you let go enough to discover that you've always had the power? Let's move into the third vibration, creation and void. This one is terrifying because we've been conditioned to believe that creation is always active, always producing, always manifesting. But the deepest acts of creation are born in utter stillness, in the void, in the nothingness. The womb is dark before life emerges. The artist sits in silence before the vision comes. The true magician waits in the abyss before the spell is cast. But most people flee the void. They cannot bear the emptiness. They panic when nothing moves. They claw for meaning instead of allowing it to emerge. Only those who can sit in the void without losing their mind can channel creation in its rawest form. And here's the twist. Sometimes, to create something divine, you must first destroy what is merely good. Are you brave enough to choose silence over noise, emptiness over distraction, stillness over momentum? Now we step into the fourth vibration, wisdom and madness. This is the most dangerous doorway, because when you begin to awaken, truly awaken, you see things differently. You start noticing patterns in chaos, hearing voices in silence, touching truths that words cannot hold. And if you're not grounded, if you're not anchored in awareness, you'll snap, you'll lose your mind. This is why so many spiritual seekers turn away when things get too weird, because true wisdom will make you question reality. It will blur the line between imagination and vision, between dream and memory. But the one who can walk into madness and return with a gem of truth, that one becomes a seer, a prophet, a wisdom bearer. But remember this, clarity is not the absence of madness, it is the mastery of it. Can you stay sane in a world built on illusions once you see through them? These 4 vibrations alone would be enough to undo most people. But this is only the beginning. The reason only 1% of the dark chosen ones can handle these vibrations is not because they're stronger, but because they're willing to be undone. They're willing to be cracked open. They're willing to lose themselves over and over again in order to become something truer, deeper, more elemental. These are the ones who don't just walk between worlds, they build bridges between them. They don't flinch at paradox, they eat it for breakfast. And as wild as it sounds, this is not about darkness in the cinematic sense. It's about embracing the entire spectrum of being, refusing to exile any part of ourselves, even the ones society calls broken, strange, or dangerous. So why are these vibrations so rare? Because duality is uncomfortable. Most people crave certainty. They want to be told what to believe, who to be, what's right. But duality demands that you hold both truths at once. That you accept that light and dark are not enemies, they are lovers, constantly dancing, constantly exchanging, constantly teaching, and until you can stand in that dance without trying to pick a side, you will never access these vibrations. You will never unlock the codes that are hidden in the in-between. Here's the question I want to leave you with right now, not a surface level one, but a soul-stretching one. What part of your own shadow are you still trying to escape? And what divine power is trapped there waiting for you to stop running? Because the next 3 vibrations, the ones we haven't even touched yet, are where the real transformation begins, where death becomes life, where pain becomes bliss, where time collapses and you become the mirror through which the entire universe sees itself. And only the brave will go there. The forbidden 3, death, bliss, and the collapse of time. There are realms of vibration so potent, so volatile, that even the most disciplined spiritual warriors dare not tread them without shaking. These 3, death, bliss, and the collapse of time, are not just states of awareness, they are initiations, they are portals. And only those who have stared into the abyss of their own being without begging for escape can enter them. These are the forbidden 3, the final triad of duality vibrations that few will ever endure and fewer still will master. But if you do, you will not return the same. Let's begin with death and rebirth, not as symbols but as frequencies you can feel vibrating through your marrow. Most people think death is the end. They speak of it as loss, as finality, as something to fear. But in the higher realms, death is not destruction, it is liberation. It is the sacred unraveling of what no longer serves. But here's the part no one tells you. To truly live in alignment with your soul, you must die constantly. You must let go of identities, beliefs, relationships, and versions of yourself that once kept you safe. And dying, spiritually speaking, is not poetic. It's brutal, it's disorienting, it's terrifying, because it requires you to say, I don't know who I am anymore. And that's okay. Every true awakening begins with a funeral for who you thought you were. And rebirth isn't a gentle rising, it's a volcanic eruption from the void. It's you, raw and unguarded, emerging from your own ashes. The vibration of death and rebirth is so intense that only those who stop clinging to life as they expect it can survive it. Can you let go of every identity you've built, every mask you've worn, every story you've told yourself, just to find out who you really are beneath them? Then comes the second forbidden vibration, bliss and pain. These are not opposites, they are twins, born from the same womb of intensity. The reason most people never find true bliss is because they're running from pain. But real bliss, cosmic bliss, is not pleasure, it's presence. It's a level of aliveness so deep that it pierces through every layer of numbness. And when you feel that alive, you feel everything. The joy, the sorrow, the beauty, the grief, all at once. This is why bliss often feels unbearable. It's too much. It opens you too wide. There are monks who've sat in caves for decades and still tremble at the threshold of this vibration, because when you enter it, you dissolve. You become a river with no banks, a flame with no wick. You are consumed by the totality of what it means to exist. And so few can handle that. They want the light without the burn. But bliss is the burn, and it purifies everything. Are you willing to feel so deeply that it breaks you open and floods you with the raw truth of your own divinity? And now, the final gate, time and timelessness. This one will bend your mind until it breaks, because time is a construct, a necessary illusion for linear existence, but in the higher states of vibration, time collapses. The past, the future, and the now become stacked like transparent layers of the same painting. You begin to remember things you never lived. You catch glimpses of futures not yet formed. You realize that healing your past changes your present, and your present alters the timeline of the world. This vibration is not something you understand, it's something you become. But here's the danger. If you're not grounded, you lose your grip on reality. You start floating between timelines, losing your sense of self, your orientation, your sanity. That's why only the most anchored souls can walk through this gate and return with wisdom instead of confusion. Time is not your enemy, but clinging to it is. And when you surrender, you realize there was never a beginning. There will never be an end. You are the moment, always. Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to step outside of time and see the whole of your soul's journey across lifetimes as one continuous breath? These three vibrations, death, bliss, and the collapse of time, are not just concepts. They are initiations that strip you bare. They demand everything, they give nothing until you've given everything, and yet they are the keys to the final transformation. Because once you have passed through them, something shifts forever. You are no longer a seeker, you become the source. You don't search for answers, You radiate them. You don't fear the dark. You become the light that stares back. So ask yourself now, which of these forbidden frequencies have you already tasted in your life? And which one is still calling you, but you've been too afraid to answer? Because in the final stage, there is no map, no guide, no guru. There is only you, naked, infinite, and vibrating with the truth of everything you've ever been. And everything you're still becoming. The alchemy of wholeness, becoming the vessel that holds every vibration. By the time you've stood at the edge of death, felt bliss and pain merge into one unbearable ecstasy, and witnessed time collapse like a dying star, something inside you begins to change permanently. You no longer see yourself as a single being with a single story. You begin to recognize that you are not just a drop in the ocean, you are the ocean remembering itself as a drop. And in that remembrance, the real work begins. Alchemy, not the kind that turns lead into gold, but the kind that turns fragmentation into wholeness. The kind that transforms you into a vessel capable of holding every vibration without breaking. This is the final evolution, and it is rarer than all previous awakenings combined. You see, most people spend their lives trying to escape the parts of themselves they don't like, the rage they suppress, the grief they silence, the shame they bury, even the joy they're afraid to fully feel in case it disappears. But the awakened one, the truly initiated, doesn't exile anything. They don't flee the fire, they become the forge. This is the alchemy of wholeness, the process of allowing every vibration, every emotion, every paradox to exist inside you without judgment, without resistance, without needing to fix or flee. You become the container, and when you can hold it all, you become indestructible, not because nothing can hurt you, but because you no longer fear being hurt. Imagine this, a storm raging inside your chest, and instead of trying to quiet it, you sit with it, you breathe it in, you ask it questions, you listen to it like an old friend, and in doing so, the storm softens, not because it's gone, but because it's been seen, heard, integrated. This is what most people never realize. The parts of you that scream the loudest are not trying to destroy you. They're trying to return home. They want to be included in the whole. They want to be reminded that they too are sacred. Even your darkness is holy when it's held in the light of your presence. But for this kind of alchemy to occur, something radical must happen. You must stop identifying with any single vibration. You are not your anger, you are not your love, you are not your fear, your wisdom, your ecstasy, or your sorrow. You are the space in which all of those things exist. The moment you realize that, you gain the freedom of the cosmos. You're no longer trapped in the swing of duality. You become the pendulum. You can flow between light and dark without losing center. That is the mark of a true spiritual giant. Not someone who avoids darkness, but someone who walks through it with the same grace they walk through light. Here's the deeper secret most never hear. The universe wants you to become this vessel, because when you do, you become a mirror for others. Your presence alone begins to catalyze transformation. People feel safe around you, not because you're perfect, but because you're whole. They feel seen because you've seen yourself. They feel held because you've held your own fragments. This is how we heal the world, not through preaching, but through being, through embodying the alchemy of wholeness so fully that others remember they can too. But it's not easy. Integration is not glamorous. It's messy. It's non-linear. Some days you'll feel like a god, other days like a shattered myth. But even in your brokenness, you are sacred. Even in your confusion, you are exactly where you're meant to be. Because every vibration you feel, every polarity you hold, is part of the divine equation. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is wrong. You are not here to become light by rejecting darkness. You are here to become whole by remembering you were never separate from anything. So I ask you now, with every part of your being tuned in, can you love what you've been taught to fear? Can you sit with the parts of yourself you've tried to outgrow, outsmart, or exercise? And finally, simply let them be. Because if you can, you will discover something astonishing, not just peace, not just presence, but power beyond comprehension. The power of someone who can walk into any room, any energetic field, any spiritual war, and remain unshaken. Because they are not fighting anything, they are everything, and everything recognizes itself in them. You want to know why only 1% of the dark chosen ones can handle these vibrations? It's not because they're elite. It's because they've stopped trying to be. They've surrendered to the totality of what it means to be human and divine, flawed and infinite, terrified and eternal. And in that surrender, they become what the rest of the world still fears: free. The final mirror, why the universe only bows to the one who becomes it. There comes a moment in the spiritual journey where all the teachings dissolve, all the masters vanish, and all the rituals fall silent. A moment where you are no longer walking toward truth, but standing as it. It's not a climax. It's not even a destination. It's a remembering, so complete, so devastatingly beautiful, that the universe itself seems to pause and bow. Not to worship, but to recognize. Because you are no longer an individual reaching for the cosmos, you are the cosmos remembering itself through the eyes of a single soul. And in that moment, you become the final mirror. All your life, you've been taught to pray to something outside of you, to look upward, outward, onward, never inward. You've been told the divine is above, beyond, unreachable. But that was only ever half the story. The full truth? You are not just a child of the universe, you are its living reflection. And when you integrate all the vibrations, love and destruction, power and surrender, bliss and pain, time and timelessness, you become a vessel so clear, so resonant, that the universe sees itself in you with perfect clarity. And when that happens, reality begins to respond differently. You stop chasing signs and signs start chasing you. You stop asking for guidance because every breath becomes an answer. You stop waiting for miracles because your very existence becomes one. This is not wishful thinking, this is energetic alignment at the highest level. Because the universe doesn't respond to your words, it responds to your being. And when your being is fully aligned with truth, with wholeness, with divine presence, it cannot help but conspire in your favor. But let's be clear, This is not about manifesting from ego. This is not about bending reality to your will. This is about becoming so attuned to the rhythm of existence that you no longer separate yourself from it. You don't manifest the path. You are the path. You don't attract the light. You radiate it. You don't fight the dark. You transmute it with your presence. And that's when the universe begins to bow, not to who you think you are, but to who you've remembered yourself to be. This is the culmination of the 7 most powerful duality vibrations, not just to survive them, not just to understand them, but to embody them so completely that you become the fusion point where all polarities collapse. You become the still point in the center of the storm, the eye of the paradox, the womb of creation. And from that center, you don't just perceive reality, you create it through your frequency. But here's the final challenge. The moment you reach this level of integration, the temptation to separate returns. The ego wants to claim it. I've arrived, I'm awakened, I'm special. And just like that, separation sneaks in through the back door. That is why the final mirror is also the most humbling, because the moment you become everything, you realize you are nothing, not in a nihilistic way, but in the most liberating way possible. You are not the drop, the wave, or even the ocean. You are the emptiness in which all of them rise and fall. And in that recognition, you lose all need to prove, preach, or even perform. You simply be. And that beingness is your ultimate offering to the world. It's what heals others without words. It's what opens locked hearts without effort. It's what dismantles illusions in silence. Because you are no longer trying to change the world, you are the world, awakened to itself. That is the final mirror. And only those who have dared to walk through every dimension of themselves, light and dark, sacred and profane, love and terror, can carry it without shattering. So I leave you with this final question, one that only your soul can answer. If the entire universe looked into your eyes right now, would it see itself clearly? Because when it does, everything begins to shift, not outside of you, through you. And that is when the game ends and the real reality begins. You are not here to escape this world. You are here to become it. And when you do, even the shadows will bow.